Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and I think it's time that we revisit the top 5 teams for World Boss Legend, because it's been a while since I made a video on this, but to make it more interesting and a bit more challenging for me, I decided to throw out the different videos. I'm not going to make 3 videos, one for the best teams for Mephisto, one for the best teams for Ultron, and one for the best teams for Null. We're just going to do the top 5 best. So that means there's going to be fewer characters featured, right? Instead of having 15 slots, we only have 5 slots. So I'm going to have to, unfortunately, maybe not mention your favorite character for World Boss Legend. It also means that I'm going to have to consider more things when I'm ranking these characters, because as we know, for Null and Ultron, they're universal, but for Mephisto, he is Blast, which obviously makes speed way better. Unfortunately, I can't overemphasize speed types by having like 5 of them on the list, because it just doesn't make sense. They are well represented, believe me, but you have to take that into consideration. Second thing I want to take into consideration before we get going, sort of like the preamble to the video, is that I am considering the restrictions, right? The restrictions are important because sure, if you just go up to stage 9 and that's all you play, then you can use any character. That's fantastic. But as soon as you want to start climbing, that's when you have to start using different characters, and you really have no choice. But investing in these characters, it won't cover every single restriction. I know that because I know that, for example, there's no combats on this list, but it will cover the majority of the restrictions, and that's what I think is really important, that you have a wide range and a wide variety to list. Last but not least, I will not be mentioning on this list of top 5 clears for World Boss Legend either Moon Knight, Iron Man, or Thor. And the reason for doing so is because it's obvious that they're super strong and they're OP. Get their new uniform and get them to level 80. You got to do both of those things, and they're just going to rip through. So yes, Iron Man would be number 1, Thor would be number 2, and Moon Knight would be number 3 if I was considering them at tier 4 and possibly even at level 80. And then I'd probably unfortunately have to include Storm on this list as well. We're not going to be doing that. Storm is nowhere near the top 5. And yeah, Thor, Iron Man, and Moon Knight are literally 1, 2, and 3. But this list is not going to consider them. So without further ado, let's jump in. Coming in at number 5 is a familiar member of the Black Order who got an absolutely outrageous rework a year ago that made her one of the best villains in the game and still is to this day. Of course, I'm not talking about Proxima. Of course, I am talking about Supergiant. And yes, she is still one of the best World Boss Legend clears in my opinion, because she just provides a great, like, amazing combination of abilities that you're not going to find in many other places. She has really strong healing, she has crazy burst damage, she has invisibility for the defenses and damage reduction, she has lots of hits, and she just, basically has it all. The only thing holding her back from being further on this list is that, in general, villains are not highly featured for World Boss Legend restrictions, so you don't actually need that many villains. And 2, you have a situation where she can have some targeting issues with her 6th skill. I know that for sure. She moves back during her 6th skill. Honestly, I don't want to jinx it, but it kind of feels like it's been fixed. I don't want to jinx it too much. But yeah, Supergiant is definitely, in my opinion, in the top 5 for World Boss Legend clears of all, well, at least Null and Mephisto. For Ultron, villains in general struggle greatly, but I wasn't going to not feature any villains on this list because of that. Now, as far as team-ups go for Supergiant, of course, you have access to other members of the Black Order, like Ebony Maw's lead and passive, Proxima's lead and passive for villains, but you can also just generally give her a lot of other abilities. And what's the great thing, what's great about Supergiant is she deals purely mind damage. So you can also utilize any of those abilities or supports like Storm, like, other elemental damage buffs. I can't think of any right now, but you can utilize all of those support passives and those elemental buffs to increase her damage that way. So you have a really flexible team availability. You can put Valkyrie. Again, it depends on the restrictions there. You can use Cyclops, all that kind of stuff. But I honestly think that even now, right, the value of Supergiant is really, really high. She's still the best for supervillain female for ABX, and so she definitely deserves a list on this ranking for top 5 characters to use in World Boss Legend. Coming in at number 4, we have Hawkeye, and for Hawkeye, I actually struggled to rank him here above other characters, above other speed types, etc., because he's really good, but there is just a lot of other characters that are also really, really good. So respect to Hawkeye for being number 4, but I just want you to know that there are definitely other characters that could have been on this list, especially depending on what your restrictions are and what teams you have access to. I really wanted to put Shang-Chi here, for example, because he has the leadership ability and he just has access to tons of different buffs, and he's a bit harder to play and things like that. But yeah, just know that this 4th spot was very hotly contested. Now, as far as what makes Hawkeye so amazing, not only are his skills super cool to look at, but he's got a super easy rotation, and he's generally one of the highest damage dealing speed types in the game. I'm using a Rage right now, so don't get on me about the rotation, but he's got one of the, highest burst damage tier 3s in the game. Hawkeye doesn't have access to all of the passive buffs that other speed types have, and I'll cover that later in the video, but I still think despite that, he is a solid addition to your roster, and he can clear a lot of different content and do quite well on it. Some team ups for Hawkeye, which I forgot to mention earlier in the video. You can definitely pair him with a lot of different leads. Like I said, and like I'm doing right now, Wave is an awesome addition here. You can't take advantage of all of the White Fox buffs, so keep that in mind, but you can take advantage of Taskmaster. So Taskmaster is a really good support to put together with Hawkeye, but then as a hero, he can take advantage of all other supports, Nick Fury, Coulson, all that stuff. And then pretty much everyone else that isn't a villain support ally. Valkyrie is a good passive buff and stuff like that, and then those sort of things. Just keep in mind that he doesn't have, although he seems to have elemental damage on his tier 3, like there's ice and there's explosions and there's electricity that is there, but he doesn't have elemental damage. So using elemental damage supports with Hawkeye will not work. Coming in at number 3, we have the big bad eternal leader, Thena. And you got to put her on this list, absolutely, despite her cost, because she's just insanely strong for any World Boss Legend, any way you slice it. She's available for tons of different restrictions. She has great damage, great healing, great survivability, and she has a self-buffing leadership, which is quite rare, and basically no other character on this list, sort of, has a good self-buffing lead. Which is, just drives home that point even more about how rare it is to find a character that can deal damage, but also support themselves with buffs. It also helps that she can support any other ally with those buffs, with that leadership buff, right? Because that applies to all allies. So she does offer you that flexibility, even in cases where you don't have her built up enough yet, but you want to take advantage of that leadership. So yeah, really good character, has served me well. Like I've really put her through her paces for whatever the 8 months that she's been in the game, and she has almost never let me down with how crazy her damage is and how high it scales. And even for new content like GBR, she tackles it easily. So she's a really, really good addition to your roster, and easily in my mind among the top 5 World Boss Legend clears for any World Boss Legend that you need. Pretty much any restriction she's available for. At number 2, the character you probably thought was going to be number 1, Doctor Strange. Now, he could easily be argued to be the best World Boss Legend character that you want to build teams around, because he is very, very good and he hits a lot of different restrictions, but I will explain and I will justify why he is rank 2, but he is a very solid rank 2 and easily arguable to be rank 1, because his damage is just off the charts, and it's kind of hard to explain how good his damage is because it doesn't really make sense. His damage is just so high. He does like just crazy high burst, really short cooldowns on his main rotation of 4-1-2-3, and he's got this really cool 5th skill that duplicates his attacks, and has like 2-3 copies of him floating around attacking the boss. Now, he's actually got a self-buffing lead, which is especially good for Null World Boss Legend because it gives you that 20% ignore dodge. So he's got that flexibility there. You can even just use him as a lead if you haven't built him up yet. But you definitely want to build your Doctor Strange up to do damage because he does so much damage. It's pretty disgusting. And of course, we're just shy of the next phase. As far as teams go for Doctor Strange, he actually has a lot of options available to him. Of course, as a hero, he's got all of the regular passive buffs that you can get from anybody, Wave, whatever, Valkyrie, all those characters. But then he also has access to Wong's passive buff, which affects only magic type characters. And then he also has lots of cool synergies and sort of small team-up bonuses, but it's this team-up bonus nonetheless with popular supports like Ancient One. And of course, you could use Ancient One's lead instead if you just want that big energy attack bonus rather than having the ignore dodge. So I could swap the 30% energy attack that he's giving himself with 20% ignore dodge for 50% energy attack from Ancient One here, right? So you have a lot of options for teams there, but honestly, you could just bring Doctor Strange by himself. He could honestly probably solo a lot of content for you if you haven't tried it yet, because he's that busted. And so coming in at number 1, we have Makari. And if stage 54 of Mephisto is not a good enough reason to justify why she is the best character for all 5 World Boss Legends to build a team around, I don't know what will. But honestly, Makari is one of the she's the best in my opinion. She's the best character for World Boss Legend. She's available for so many different restrictions, whether it's speed, whether it's command, whether it's leadership, whether it's female hero, all that stuff. Basically the only ones she doesn't apply to is male and human. But she's honestly insane. She's got great healing. She's got very high burst damage. She's got debuff immunity on her second skill. She's got really flashy animations. And like Thena, she's going to get access to some additional buffs for different characters. And this is why I didn't cover it in the Thena one, because I wanted to just double dip. So for both Thena and Makari, if you want to build teams around them, of course, in Thena's case, you can use her own lead. Makari's case, you don't want to use her own lead because it's pretty bad. It's all speed or something like that. But for Makari and Thena, you have access to all of the regular supports, but you also have White Fox. You get the full range of buffs from White Fox, which is really nice. You also get access to Cersei. So Cersei is really, really good. I can't use her here because she's not a speed type, but Cersei is a really good support for both Thena and Makari because she gives energy attack, or she gives all attack. She gives increased damage to supervillains and decreased damage from supervillains, and she gives debuff immunity. So a lot of really good offensive buffs and defensive buffs to boot, which makes her like just the best support for both Thena and Makari. And you're basically just going to have the difficulty, if you have both Thena and Makari, of deciding which one goes with Cersei. But yeah, having access to pretty much every single strong buff in the game and having insane burst damage, insane survivability, basically having it all is really why Makari takes the cake here. And she's doing all of this, by the way, with a CTP of Rage, right? No reforged CTPs, no difficult, annoying rotation and sort of timing to deal with. She really does it all. She has insane movement speed. She's basically the exact opposite of Storm at this point in time, unfortunately. But they definitely got it right with Makari, and as stacked as the speed class is, she definitely takes the cake, which is why she's got to be number 1. So hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of the top 5 teams for World Boss Legend. Did you like this style of video? Did you not? And why? Thanks for watching. Smash the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.